Hello and welcome to Aero Innovations. I'm Aero and I'll be your host
this evening.
Hello and welcome to Aero Innovations. My name is Megan and I'll be your host this evening. It is so exciting to finally be making this video. This collab between Aero and I has been in the works for so long, so it feels great to finally be in action. So as I just said 1 second ago, my name is Megan, but I also go by Vixen or VixenXPoker in the poker space. My poker journey began almost 3 years ago now, and it's been a wild one so far. For a bit of background about me, I didn't learn how to play poker playing small stakes online or even in 1-3. The majority of how I learned how to play poker was in the wild 5-5 Absolute Nuts live cash game. What I love about it is that it taught me how to be fearless, how to take risks, and how to play with crazy players who are going to put you to the test for your entire stack every single hand. What I don't love so much about it is that there are hundreds of hours of me just blundering all over YouTube, and it's just going to live there forever. I've also played on the Hustler livestream a few times and over at the Lodge in Austin, Texas, where I've had a good amount of success so far.
Queens, kings, aces. Vixen's gonna use her one time. And Vixen, that's how you welcome somebody to the stream. Unbelievable.
2,000.
And she's gonna go 2,000, so this is not a bluff. This is a value bet.
And VixenPoker gonna win a big one.
You're right.
She's very thankful.
Nice hand.
$32,000 in the pot. One time,
Nice hand.
and the river breaks. VixenPoker banks a $1,440 pot.
Taking shots in these bigger cash games and sun running like crazy has allowed me to take a shot at playing poker full time, so that's what I've been doing. You'd think that makes me a pro, right? Wrong. I still have so much to learn, and that's where Aero comes in. Aero and I met about a year or so ago playing on the Absolute Nuts livestream, and we've become good friends ever since. He has a much stronger poker strategy foundation than I do, so throughout the series of me making videos on his channel, he's going to be helping me work on and improve my game. My overall goals in poker are what I would best describe as unfocused. I love this game and I want to be great at it, but I'm not sure that I want my only source of income to come from poker. I've always thought about getting into the social media side of things, but I've always been too shy to put myself out there. That is until now. Alrighty, without further ado, let's get into the hands. This first session is from August 28th, where I played a 1-3 game over at the Wynn Encore in Las Vegas. I think this is a hell of a hand to introduce myself and my play with, but here we go. In this hand, the under the gun player raises to $12. The middle position player calls, the low jack calls, the high jack calls, the cutoff calls, and I look down a jack 10 of clubs on the button. This is a pretty hand, a good one to call in position and see the flop with, but I have other ideas. I see a bunch of potential dead money out there and bump things up to $80. I'm hoping this folds all the way around so I can pick up the money in the middle without a fight, but I also wouldn't mind a call either. Jack 10 suited has a lot of playability post-flop, especially in position. In the moment, I'm mostly worried about this getting through the under the gun player's initial raise, so when it folds back to him and he quickly folds, I think I'm in the clear. That is until it folds to the player in the hijack and she goes all in for $145. Whoops, I've been caught getting out of line. The cutoff folds, and when it gets back to me, I don't have any option but to call. It's $65 more, and while I'm not fist pumping getting it in, I'm not mad at it either. I'm thinking her shove is probably something like a smaller pocket pair like 5s through 9s, and that I'm most likely flipping. I know some 1-3 players don't 3-bet hands like ace-king or ace-queen, so those could be possible as well, but even then, I'm not in bad shape against either of those. The dealer runs out the board, and it comes out king, jack 2, all spades. The turn is the queen of clubs, and the river is the 9 of diamonds. I fast roll my hand and tell my opponent that I have a straight, and she laughs in frustration and mucks. These are not the kind of hands that I want to show down less than 10 minutes into a session, but I'll never complain about taking down a $330 pot. The opponent later tells me that she had pocket 9s and that she just knew I was getting out of line. About 10 minutes after the completion of the last hand, I have 5-4 of clubs in middle position and raise things up to $10. The low jack, the high jack, the small blind, and the big blind all call. Texas heads up. We're 5 ways to a flop of queen of clubs, 6 of spades, 8 of spades, and the action checks around. I have absolutely no intention of trying to bluff 4 other people on this board. That is until the turn is the 3 of diamonds and it checks to me again. I'm open-ended. I have hopes and I have dreams. I throw out a bet of $15 and only the big blind sticks around. I had plans of betting most rivers, even if my open-ended missed, but when the river is the queen of hearts and the big blind checks to me, I give up and check back. I think with the top card pairing, it makes the story I'm telling a bit less believable, and if he was calling the turn with an 8 or a 6, the queen coming is a good card for him to see, making it less likely that I have top pair myself. I was also worried that my credibility was at an all-time low after showing down the Jack 10 earlier. The villain rolls over ace-jack of spades and I lose this $80 pot. In hindsight, I'm not sure if giving up is actually a good idea here. Maybe with a big enough bet, like 1.5x pot, I can get folds from pairs under a queen, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm always looking for some constructive feedback. There's an under the gun straddle to $6 in the middle position, cutoff, button, and small blind call. I have 2 black queens in the big blind and bump it up to $45. I just made a similar move with the Jack 10 hand, so I'm assuming I can get called a bit lighter. The under the gun straddle calls and everyone else folds. The flop is king, 4, 5, 2 spades. Not ideal to see a king high board when you're holding queens, but I continue with the small c bet of $25. I think I can still get value here from some unbelieving pocket pairs, potential flush draws, open-ended straight draws, etc. This isn't a hand I think I can get 3 streets of value from, but I'm generally c-betting king high boards, and this hand is no different. The under the gun player folds, and I scoop this one in. This next hand has nothing to do with me, but I thought it was an interesting situation, and I'm curious what you guys think about it. The under the gun player open jams all in for $112, trying to double up or leave empty-handed, announcing that he's late for his dinner date. I have king 7 off, which is obviously not good enough, so I fold, and the button player throws out $3, thinking he's limping in. This guy has no idea that the under the gun player is all in. There's a bit of back and forth as to if he has to call or if he can discuss it amongst the table. The dealer lets him know that throwing the chips in is a call, and he shrugs and says, "You want to gamble? Fuck it, let's gamble," pushing the rest of his chips forward. Unfortunately for him, his 9-5 of clubs is crushed by the under the gun's ace-9, and he does not improve on the run out. My thoughts on the matter is that I think this mistake was very easily avoidable had he been paying better attention. The dealer even announced verbally that the player was all in. This opinion may be unpopular, but I think letting him fold and lose the $3 that he put out should have been an option. It's not like he waited to see what the under the gun player had before announcing the mistake, and it was obvious he wasn't trying to angle the guy in any way. But what do you guys think? Would you have let him off easy, or are you making him pay for his mistake? The under the gun player raises to $8, the player middle position 3 bets to 25, the button calls, the small blind calls, and I am just hoping that I have something good enough to 4-bet and take down all of the money already in the middle. I look down at my hand and it's the beautiful 7-deuce offsuit. Unfortunately, I have to make the fold here despite this being one of my favorite hands in poker. 7-deuce enthusiast is actually even in my Instagram bio. If you guys would like to see more consistent updates on me and my poker journey, follow me over there at VixenXPoker.
Hey guys, so this is Megan's very first video, so if you guys want to see more of her, and I'm sure you do, make sure you show your appreciation. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what you think about her episode so far, what you want to see improve, what she can do different, and mostly what you liked about this episode. See you guys soon.
Here I fold. And fold. And I do some more folding. And finally I have a playable hand. 10-7 suited. I'm under the gun and I raise the action to $10. This is definitely too wide to be in my under the gun opening range, but I'm imperfect, what can I say? I'm a sucker for these types of hands. The middle position player, the button, the small blind, and the big blind make the call. We're off to a flop of ace of hearts, 10 of spades, 2 of diamonds. I c-bet to $15 and only the small blind makes the call. We're heads up to the turn, which is the queen of clubs. My opponent checks to me and I don't see any value in betting here, so I check it back. The river is another queen, and when the small blind checks again, I quickly check back. I expect to be winning here a good amount of the time, but instead we're up against 10-9 of diamonds. The river totally bails me out and I chop this one up. Results oriented, maybe I could have bluffed her off of a chop, but I guess we'll never know. In the very next hand, the under the gun player, the cutoff, the button, and the small blind all limp when I look down at queen jack off in the big blind and I put in the squeeze to $20. I'm not sure if this is the correct play or not, but I'm sure it can't be that bad, right? That is until the under the gun player, the button, and the small blind all call. Now we're out of position with a 6 out of 10 hand at best, going 4 ways to a flop of ace, ace, 8, 2 hearts. Maybe there's merit to betting here, but I don't really think so, and I decide to check and the action checks around. Still 4 of us to a turn, which is the queen of clubs. The small blind checks to me, and I think if anyone had an ace in this hand, they would have bet the flop, so I'm pretty confident I have the best hand here almost always, and throw out a bet of $20. Everyone folds pretty quickly, and I take down an $80 pot. In this hand, the low jack raises to $10 and I call in the hijack with pocket threes. The button then puts in the 3-bet to $30, which I think is a bit small. If I were putting in a 3-bet, I'd go to 45, but that's just me. With the price being good and the low jack flatting the 30, I come along as well. The flop comes out King Deuce 7 Rainbow. It checks to the 3-better, who throws out a continuation bet of $100. Now this is a huge c-bet, and on such a dry board, I don't think this is ever a bluff, especially in 1-3. The low jack and I are both out of there. I do some more folding until I win a small pot with pocket jacks. And that brings us to the most interesting hand of the session. In this hand, the under the gun player raises to $10 and I am next to act and put in the 3-bet to 35 with pocket aces. Finally, I have a premium. After a bunch of table talk with the under the gun player,
Vlogging this one, huh?
Yeah. That's how you know it's a good hand.
Oh, is that how I'm supposed to know it's a good hand?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If it's not a good hand, I'm not recording.
Isn't that cheating though? Aren't I cheating by looking to see if
Well,
you're recording? Then I
it's-
know it's a good hand.
To tell.
This might be really good. Are you gonna air this thing?
Yeah.
If you win? Okay, let's.
Well, I can air it if I lose too.
he makes the call. We're heads up to the flop, which is King Queen 7 Rainbow, and to my surprise, the villain leads for $100 and immediately asks me for commentary on his bet.
Can you give me some commentary so I know what to do?
What kind of commentary are you looking for?
I have absolutely no idea what to make of this. Remember not even 2 minutes ago when I said this was never a bluff? My alarm bells are immediately sounding off. I think a set of sevens would rather go for a check raise here rather than lead out for over the size of the pot to get more value, and I'm not really putting my opponent on kings or queens because I think he would 4-bet those pre, so I'm almost narrowing his range here to king, queen, or ace king with a small possibility of a set of sevens. As crazy as this sounds, I consider folding right here on the flop. After some back and forth and some deliberation with the opponent, I decide on a call and throw out my black chip to see what develops. With $274 in the middle, we're off to a turn and it's a complete blank 5 of spades. It brings in a backdoor flush draw, but that's about it. The villain continues with a bet of $125, and this also makes no sense to me. He only has $100 back. I ask him why he would bet so small when he has so little behind, and he tells me it's because he wants a call. This bet puts me deep into the tank, because I know if I call this street, I'm calling the $100 he has remaining no matter what. This is where I think I make a mistake in this hand, because I end up deciding on a call here rather than just going all in. If I know that calling this bet means calling the river, I should just be sticking it myself. I think in game I called, hoping that if he were bluffing, he would just give up the river and I could quickly check it back, because he knows that I know that he knows I have to call his river shove, right? The mental gymnastics I go through playing this game is astonishing. The river is a 10, and when he goes all in, I quickly make the call and he announces a 10. A 10? I'm not usually a fan of making people turn over the losing hand, so I turn over my aces and the opponent mucks. I hadn't even considered this while I was playing the hand, but I asked my opponent if he had Jack 10 and he says yes. Maybe in the usual crazy games that I play in, this would have come to mind, but in the moment I was completely shocked. Overall, I think this was a very unusual hand and I may be a little bit of a calling station. Between his large flop bet, strength, and all of his talking, also a typical sign of strength, I think a fold here is not completely unreasonable. I run this hand by a few other people who feel the same, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Am I being a huge nit here with aces, or would you be in the blender as well? Either way, I just won a $724 pot. I go card dead and don't play another hand for 39 minutes until I look down at jacks in the small blind. Facing what I thought was a $10 raise from the cutoff, I decide to 3-bet this one to $35. However, as you can see in this clip, the middle position player was actually the initial raiser and the cutoff just called. Had I noticed this, I would have 3-bet to 50 instead, being out of position. In game, I was chatting to the guy to my right and didn't realize the middle position player was even in the hand. Take this as a friendly reminder to make sure you're paying attention at the tables. Anywho, the middle position player and the cutoff both make the call. We're off to a flop that comes out ace high. Ew. I check to the other two players and they check behind. The turn is the 9 of clubs, and I check once again and they do as well. When the river comes another ace, I try going for value at this point with a bet of $25, hoping to get called by a smaller pocket pair. Unfortunately though, they don't seem to have much of anything and both opponents fold. I play one last hand where I lose a small one with ace-jack of spades and decide to wrap it up and call it a night. I did try to get a video for you guys of me cashing out of the cage to get like a cool vlogger clip, and I was told I could not record at the cage, so maybe I'll be able to get one for you guys next time.
Okay, so Megan, let's talk about that 10-7 hand, 10-7 suited. You open under the gun. You are pretty deep. Originally, I thought maybe you weren't that deep, so it's a questionable raise. So I've been playing at the Wynn for about 10 years now, and I open with all sorts of garbage when I'm deep. The reason that I do it is because I want to throw off my opponents. My play needs to be incredibly dynamic. You know, if it goes to showdown, people see, oh, Aero just opened with freaking Queen Deuce suited, Jack 4 suited, King 3. They think that I always open with that sort of crap. They don't realize I only do it very occasionally as a curveball. Get them to think that my opening range is a lot more loose than it actually is, so that they can't predict my range of hands. Why did you decide to open with 10-7 suited?
See, I open hands like this for a different reason. I think, for the most part, I try to win these hands without getting to showdown, but in the times that I do, I think it's unexpected. They don't expect me to be raising 10-7 suited under the gun, probably. They probably think when I'm raising early position, I probably have aces, kings, queens, ace-king, minimum kind of thing. So I like that whenever I play these hands, it's kind of unexpected. Like if I hit a weird straight, or if I hit a flush, they might be more likely to pay me off, not expecting that I have lower cards like that. But for the most part, I try not to get to showdown and show that I'm opening these hands at all.
For this hand, I think you made like second pair, but you didn't continuation bet as if you wanted to get the person off the hand. What's your strategy here?
No, I think against this particular opponent that I was in the hand with, she had already seen me do some kind of crazy things, so I wasn't ready to bluff into her because I don't think that she was going to believe anything that I was, like, any kind of story I was telling. So I think I just kind of slowed down there and then waited to improve, basically, which is not usually the strategy you want to do when you're opening suited 3-gapper, 2-gappers.
So was your strategy for deception and to potentially steal the pot?
Yes, always. And I also think, too, that a lot of players, either everyone calls in 1-3 or everyone folds. Mm-hmm. You know? So, I mean, taking down the blinds without a fight would be fine in any situation with any hand.
$4, I don't think that's a profitable strategy. Especially when you're like almost 700 deep. I don't think taking down the blinds. It's not a tournament structure. I personally don't bother trying to take down the blinds. It's literally $4.
No, but I'm saying if I open those hands and I don't get action, I'm okay with it. You know?
Okay.
But I think that whenever you do hit hands with hands like that people aren't expecting you to open, you get paid more. I just think that the board wasn't really something that I was willing to represent at the moment. I'm kind of forgetting exactly what the board was. But I remember I did bet upon improving and then ended up actually chopping that one with a better hand. She had a better 10 than I did. So I got lucky. Completely lucky in that one.
Okay, let's talk about Jack Queen. Jack Queen offsuit, you were big blind. And how big was your raise there?
Oh, I think it was like 7x. There was at
least
3 or 4 limpers, and I went at least 7x.
Okay, so my thoughts on that is apparently you were expecting to take down the pot pre-flop.
No, I mean, that's the goal, right, when you're squeezing that much. But I feel like I was okay with maybe 1, maybe 2 callers. Mm-hmm. But it got to the point where 3 people called, and I was like, oh no, like, I'm regretting my decision. I was hoping to get a heads up with at least someone. But I think whenever they're limping in, they're in for 3, they're in for 30. You know, like...
Okay, so let's say you had a real hand. So let's say you had aces, kings, queens. You generally want, I say my rule of thumb is to open 5x plus 1 for each limper. So you got 4 limpers, that's 9x, plus you're out of position. You want to do like a 10x or more raise. Mm-hmm. 7, as you saw, you're going to get 3 callers. And this time you don't actually have a premium hand, and you're going to be out of position 4 ways. Not ideal in a bloated pot. Yep. On top of which, even if you do successfully get what you want, you're going to steal, what, $12? I don't think that's a winning play, especially in the 1-3 where they're so heavily weighted towards limp calling. They'll limp call 10x hands. They'll put in half their stack sometimes. You want to take advantage of that. You want to, have... hands that have showdown value, that because these people don't fold. So I personally think you should keep your bluffing percentage to a minimum in the 1-3 stakes. You want to lean more towards value because these people, they will call down. They'll put half stack. I saw a person put in 90% of their stack pre-flop. Oh, I know, without just shoving. They do this all the time. Yes, so you want to lean more towards value-heavy hands. Because I just don't think that these plays, they're great for stream because you want the action, you want to put on a show. But I think in a regular 1-3 setting, I don't think it's a profitable long-term play. What are your thoughts?
I think that's a good point. I think that for context, most of my poker career has been on playing on live streams. So I'm not used to the play style of 1-3. So I feel like in this series and playing this, it's going to help me get back to the fundamentals, like really just learn more fundamentals, because I'm used to playing with crazy players, crazy, games, crazy opponents, everything. So it's nice to finally learn how to play 1-3, basically.
All right, let's talk about pocket aces. Your biggest decision was on the flop. How big was the action pre-flop?
Ooh. I have to look back at that.
Okay, we'll get it on the screen here. But I remember that your opponent just led for 100, and it was considerably over the size of the pot.
Yep. I think I made it 45 or 50 or something, and then everything was 45 3-bet, and then he called or something. I forget what that was.
I know that he led.
Pot.
I know he led with an overbet. Yep. So your only decision is on the flop. He is. Unless he's super tight, like there are a few very tight OMC types, as we categorize them, that want to protect their hand. They're afraid you have ace king, you're gonna hit a 3-outer. In the rare instance that you actually have aces, the board can pair not in their favor, and they want to protect their hand, and they just want you out. But barring that aside, the only type of hand that I think he's gonna have one of two hands. Either he has king queen, and he wants value, and he wants to get you out of there and potentially take down the pot. But this opponent was a younger guy. Am I right?
Middle-aged guy. He was a tourist from Hawaii, I believe.
Okay, so not a super old guy. I think when a person just bets really big, most of the time, kind of like what I do with my hands when I have big draws, they want to use fold equity. So I think the only two types of hands he has is either king queen or 10 jack. And your only decision to make is on the flop, because you're not deep enough. If you're behind her and he really does have king queen, you're looking at 5 outs on the flop and potentially 3 more on the turn. You're drawing pretty bad there. What is that, about 25% or so? You are not getting the right odds to call there when he just donks out for $100. Right. So if you decide to call on the flop, on the turn, you're just going to have to get it all in, assuming the turn's obviously not a bad card like a king or a straight completing card. I think once you make that decision on the turn, there's no need to tank. And on the turn, I think you should shove all in. Case being is if he is on the draw, if he does have 10 jack, which is the only hand that you can put him on if you're going to make this call, you don't want him to check back the river if he misses. In this case, you ended up getting all the money, but that's being results oriented. So I think that on the turn, since you've already made the decision on the flop, you need to just shove it all in, because you're calling another 150 on the turn, something like that.
I forget. Yeah, he'd bet very small. He went 100 on the flop. I think 125 or 150 on the turn, and then another 100 on the river.
Yeah, it was so little behind that you should just stick it all in. So I think the only decision to make is on the flop. You can fold on the flop if you think this is the type of player that will do this with king queen. You can just take away pocket kings, pocket queens. That's not a thing. Most of the time, they're just going to 4-bet that. Or if they flop a set, they're never just going to lead out with a massive overbet. That's just nonsensical. That's illogical. So I think the only two hands you have to worry about is king queen and 10 jack. If you think he's the type of player that just overbets with king queen, and it's a very small amount of people that do that, you can fold there. But if you decide to call, I think the turn needs to be a shove every time.
Yeah, that's my biggest regret in the hand, is I know that if I'm calling the flop, if I'm deciding that, then it has to be all in on the turn.
Yes.
But I think at the time, I don't know what it was, but for some reason I was hoping that he would slow down on the river.
Yes, I remember you telling me that. I remember you saying that you're hoping he checks back the river. If he does check back the river, you need to shove, because what hands are beating you that you want to check from? I mean, king queen's never checking back. That doesn't make sense. What hands beat you, really? I mean,
he's worried about ace jack potentially getting there for the straight, and that's it on the river. Like that makes no sense. I'm not calling the flop or the turn.
So nothing that has you beat checks back unless he's trapping with some monstrous hand, which there's no reason to trap it because there's no money left. Yes, there's no money left. The pot is too big. He would just stick it in. So that logic where you think, I hope he checks back, I think is just flawed there, because if he checks back, that means you haven't beat, in which case you need to shove. So you don't want to hope for a check back, because if you're hoping for a check back, that means that you think you're behind. And if you think you're behind, you need to just fold. Not on the turn, but on the flop. Do you know what I mean? Because by the turn, you've put in way too much money. You put in over $200. You're holding back $100.
Yeah, this was just a huge case of just overthinking. I feel like I always find myself in situations where I'm calling aces incorrectly and then folding them incorrectly, and I feel like I never play the pair correctly for some reason. But definitely overthinking that one.
All right, guys, that's it for us. I hope you enjoyed having us together. This is a wonderful, fun time collab with Megan here. If you want to see a lot more of her, remember, support us. Put your comments and your thoughts in the comments and what you think about Megan's plays. And we'll see you guys soon.